There's a dangerous trap even elite basketball coaches fall into: political compromise. When a roster is stacked with generational talent, the instinct is to keep everyone happy, balance veterans with rising stars, respect hierarchy while feeding public demand. But at the highest level, especially in international basketball, that mindset doesn't create harmony, it creates failure. For weeks, fans, analysts, and even the data were all saying the same thing: start Caitlin Clark. Against New Zealand, the coaching staff finally gave in. Her name was announced, the arena erupted, ratings surged, it felt like everything had aligned. But what followed proved a harsh reality: giving the fans what they want doesn't always mean doing it the right way. Clark was in the starting five, but the lineup around her was full of contradictions. She was placed alongside Chelsea Gray, a ball-dominant half-court organizer, effectively pushing one of the most explosive transition guards in the game off the ball. It's a mistake we've seen before: coaches so afraid of breaking structure that they misuse her entirely, even forcing her into off-ball roles like a decoy. It's like owning a fighter jet and driving it through a school zone: it strips away everything that makes it special. For 3 quarters, that compromise showed. The offense worked on talent alone, but it wasn't dominant. The pace dragged, the spacing felt off, and Clark's impact was limited because the ball wasn't consistently in her hands. Then the fourth quarter changed everything. Whether by realization or desperation, the compromises were dropped. The veterans sat, and Clark was finally given full control at point guard, joined by Paige Bueckers and a younger, faster unit. Instantly, the energy shifted. The slow sets disappeared, the hesitation vanished, it became her show. The offense exploded, and New Zealand had no answer. This wasn't just a moment, it was proof. Across the tournament, Clark leads all players with 51 points and 25 assists, clear evidence she's the offensive engine driving everything. In this game alone, she delivered 14 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals with elite efficiency. Critics have long pushed the idea that she's one-dimensional, that forcing her inside the arc exposes weaknesses, but the fourth quarter of this game started to dismantle that narrative completely.
Defender in jail, then sidestep midi. Okay, Caitlin, yeah. Oh yeah, keep her on her hip. Sidestep.
This is exactly why Caitlin Clark possesses a level of offensive gravity that feels historically unmatched. What you're seeing in this sequence isn't just scoring, it's elite biomechanics and decision-making operating in perfect sync. She initiates the action, and the New Zealand defender follows the scouting report perfectly, pressing up to eliminate the deep three. That's the correct read, but Clark turns that pressure into a liability. She doesn't rush, doesn't force anything, she manipulates it. Using a subtle hesitation, she executes what's known at the highest levels as jailing the defender, positioning them on her hip and locking them behind her forward momentum. At that exact moment, the defender is no longer reacting, they're trapped. Clark then explodes into a sharp, lateral sidestep, creating instant separation. The movement is precise, controlled, and biomechanically efficient, her base stays balanced, her footwork is clean, and her elevation flows directly into a compact, repeatable release point that's nearly impossible to contest. That mid-range pull-up isn't just a shot, it's a calculated outcome. If this becomes a consistent part of her arsenal, it fundamentally breaks defensive logic. Pressing her gives up the drive and separation, sagging off concedes the perimeter. There's no optimal coverage. And that's where the psychological pressure compounds. Because just when defenses start collapsing inward to take away that space, she stretches them back out to the edge with her signature deep range. The moment they think they've adjusted, she resets the equation entirely and reminds them why overcommitting in any direction is a losing strategy.
Caitlin Clark pulling up from deep. Crosses half court. Rejects the screen from Monique Billings. Step back, pull up. Bang. Now Caitlin Clark today from 3.
This is the kind of sequence that breaks an opponent's will, and again it centers on the unique offensive gravity of Caitlin Clark. As Monique Billings steps up to set the high screen, the New Zealand defender is already under extreme pressure, fighting to deny the action and stop Clark from turning the corner. But what separates Clark is her processing speed. She reads the defender's leverage instantly. The moment the defender overcommits to the screen, Clark rejects it without hesitation. She snaps the ball back to her left hand, creating just enough separation, barely inches, but at this level, that's all she needs. And instead of settling for a standard perimeter shot, she elevates from well beyond the three-point line, launching from a range that most defenses simply aren't built to handle. When that shot drops, it doesn't just add points, it forces a complete psychological and tactical reset. The opposing coach is left confronting a reality where traditional defensive geometry no longer applies. She has to be picked up the moment she crosses half court, and the instant a defense stretches that far, the interior collapses into a wide open lane for everyone else. That's where the situation becomes even more dangerous, because alongside her is Paige Bueckers. When two players with that level of awareness and decision-making share the floor without a slower, methodical system holding them back, the game transforms. The pace sharpens, the reads become instantaneous, and what unfolds starts to look less like structured offense and more like controlled, high-level improvisation operating at full speed.
Billings setting the screen, Caitlin Clark going through the middle. Hey, Paige, cut real quick. Nice backdoor cut, perfectly placed ball. Paige ends up dropping it off to Monique Billings for the easy bucket. Paige and Caitlin on the floor together.
Watch the precision and layered intelligence of this half-court sequence orchestrated by Caitlin Clark. She comes off the ball screen with full control, but instead of settling for a predictable pull-up, she flows seamlessly into a snake dribble, cutting sharply across the defender's body and shifting the entire defensive alignment. That single movement forces multiple defenders to collapse inward, but the true brilliance lies in what happens next. Clark isn't just reacting, she's dictating. For a split second, she deliberately locks her eyes onto Paige Bueckers' defender, using her gaze as a weapon to freeze the help defense in place. That moment of hesitation is all it takes. Bueckers, reading the floor at an elite level, instantly recognizes the opportunity and slices backdoor with perfect timing. Clark doesn't need to turn her head, she's already processed the outcome. She threads a laser-precise pocket pass through heavy traffic, hitting Bueckers in stride, who then makes the unselfish, high-IQ extra pass to Monique Billings for a clean, uncontested finish at the rim. This isn't just good offense, it's controlled manipulation, bending the defense until the easiest shot in basketball becomes unavoidable. It's a sequence built on timing, awareness, and trust, where every micro-decision compounds into a breakdown the defense cannot recover from. And while this level of half-court execution is already difficult to contain, the true separation comes in transition. At the professional level, the window to exploit a defense after a rebound is extremely short, just a brief moment before positioning is recovered. Most systems slow that moment down and allow the defense to reset. But with Clark, the default is instant acceleration. She turns that small window into a sustained advantage, pushing the pace before defenders can organize, forcing mismatches, and creating chaos in space. Combined with Bueckers' ability to read and react just as quickly, it transforms transition off.
Boop, let me set the screen. Caitlin Clark pushing tempo, got the defender on her hip, beats her off the dribble, Paige's man drops down in the paint, hit Paige wide open three, pull up.
Watch the relentless pace of this transition sequence driven by Caitlin Clark. The moment she secures the ball, there's no hesitation, she instantly accelerates, pushing the tempo before the defense can even organize. That speed alone creates pressure, and New Zealand's transition defense collapses into panic mode, scrambling to protect the rim. As Clark attacks downhill, the defender assigned to Paige Bueckers is forced to abandon the perimeter and drop into the paint to stop what looks like an inevitable layup. That single defensive decision triggers the breakdown. The instant that help comes, Clark punishes it with precision, firing a perfectly timed pass to the corner where Bueckers is left completely unguarded. In rhythm, in space, it's automatic. This is where Clark's impact goes far beyond scoring. When she controls the pace, it doesn't turn into isolation-heavy basketball, it becomes the exact opposite. Her presence forces defenses into overreactions, extra help, rushed rotations, unnecessary doubles. And those mistakes leave elite shooters like Rhyne Howard and Kelsey Plum with clean, uncontested looks. She consistently creates high-percentage opportunities, effectively amplifying the strengths of everyone on the floor. That's why her style functions like a multiplier, raising the efficiency of the entire lineup rather than just her own output. And that unselfish dynamic becomes even more dangerous when paired with another high-IQ creator like Bueckers. With two players capable of reading the game at that speed, the ball never sticks, decisions happen instantly, and the defense is forced into a constant state of reaction with no time to recover.
Paige, not being extremely selfish, finding Caitlin Clark. In transition, Caitlin Clark steps up, step back, midi, splash. And then it wouldn't be a game if...
Look at the reciprocity in this transition sequence. Paige Bueckers is pushing the ball up the floor with control and patience. She could force a tough shot, but instead she reads the chaos in the defense and makes the smarter play. She spots Caitlin Clark trailing the action and delivers the pass at exactly the right moment. Clark catches it in rhythm, immediately recognizes the closing defender, and flows effortlessly into a smooth step-back mid-range jumper, clean release, perfect balance, splash. This is what happens when two elite decision-makers operate in sync. When Bueckers and Clark share the floor in a fast, unrestricted system, the game stops looking difficult. Every movement has purpose, every read comes instantly, and every possession feels controlled. The contrast from the first 3 quarters to the fourth is impossible to ignore. The earlier stretches were slower, more rigid, and predictable. But once Clark took full control at the point, the entire identity of the offense shifted, pace increased, spacing improved, and the decision-making became sharper across the board. That fourth quarter wasn't just a display of talent, it was a clear demonstration of what this system looks like when it's optimized. It showed the impact of putting the primary playmaker in her natural role and allowing the offense to flow through her. As the level of international competition rises, especially against disciplined teams like Spain women's national basketball team and Australia women's national basketball team, execution and pace become even more critical. Structured, well-drilled defenses are far more effective against slower, predictable systems, but they are much harder to contain when constantly forced to react in transition and under pressure. This sequence, and the entire fourth quarter, highlights a clear tactical direction: maximize spacing, maintain tempo, and let your primary initiator consistently control the action. If this is what the future looks like with Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers running the show, then the rest of the world isn't just chasing gold, they're trying to survive it. If you want more elite-level breakdowns like this, hit subscribe and drop a like so you don't miss the next one.